We start tonight with that breaking news on the horrific mall shooting in Allen, Texas. According to two senior law enforcement officials, the suspected gunman, interacted with neo-Nazis and white supremacist content online. One of the officials said that the suspect posted this kind of content himself. The other official said that he consumed such rhetoric online and said that authorities found him with a patch with a right-wing acronym on his chest. We should note the official said it is too early in the investigation to ascribe a motive, but here's what we do know. 8 people, including a 5-year-old child, died in that shooting. Of course, as we just said, the Republican refrain after massacres like this one is always thoughts and prayers. No action, zero change. That is undoubtedly the standard Republican Party line. But another line is now coinciding with it, and we heard it last night on Fox as the news of the horror in Allen, Texas was unfolding.
Just like General Mathis once said, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everyone you meet because you never know.
That was former U.S. Marshal Special Deputy Alex Cocker telling Fox viewers that in America in 2023, we must have a plan to, quote, kill everyone in order to survive this society that our lawmakers have created for us. A new necessary line that conservatives will now use when discussing guns. It's not enough to own a gun. It's not enough to have that gun on you. What you need to do is be prepared, is to consider murder everywhere you go. Whether it's thoughts and prayers or plan to kill everyone you meet, Republicans make these kinds of statements because they want to avoid accountability. So let's talk about that accountability for a moment and what exactly it is that they have done. Take, for example, this guy, Jeff Leach. You may remember him from last night. He was the state representative who actually serves the city of Allen, Texas. He co-authored the 2021 Texas permitless carry bill. Leach last night said thoughts and prayers after making it easier for people to have guns in public. Of course, this guy, Governor Greg Abbott, who in 2015 said he was embarrassed that Texas was the #2 state in the nation for new gun purchases and demanded that Texans start arming themselves as quickly as possible. Abbott put out an empty statement of thoughts and prayers as well and said the attack was evidence of a mental health crisis in America. Greg Abbott, that guy, that same governor, cut $211 million in Texas mental health funding in 2022 alone. How about this guy, Dan Patrick? That is Abbott's lieutenant governor, who was one of the pioneers of the door control movement. You remember that one? Asserting that guns weren't the issue at the heart of school shootings in our country. The number of doors a school has is the real danger. If only we can guard the doors. Now, to be clear, we are not saying these individuals are responsible, but these people have worked to create the environment that we're seeing in Texas. No doubt about it. And that environment is one where guns seem to matter more than human life. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Mark Vesey of Texas. Congressman, thank you so much for making time for us tonight. I know that your state is in mourning once again, just after the horrible events in Cleveland, Texas. Now you're reckoning with another mass shooting, this time in Allen, Texas. How are you doing? How are your constituents doing? How do Texans wake up every day in that state with all of this grief and tragedy and heartbreak?
Yeah, the first thing that I thought of is that, Allen is not far from Fort Worth, where my family and I reside. And we've been to that outlet mall several occasions. It's a very popular outlet mall. The fact that a white supremacist would go there is honestly not a shock, because Collin County is a very diverse county. A lot of the newer tech jobs that have been created the last several years here in the DFW area are in Collin County. And lots of families, international families, reside there and use that mall. It's scary, and we do need more than thoughts and prayers. If Republicans would pick up the Bible and read it and read James 2:26, they would know that faith without works is dead, and that God would want us to take action when there's been so much carnage, so much bloodshed, so many families that have been devastated by the senseless violence that continues to take place in America almost on a daily basis now.
Yeah, in your past life as a representative in the Texas state legislature, you were fighting Governor Greg Abbott and his gun extremism every day. Talk a little bit about that response from Abbott last week, the one that was tone deaf, posting a photo of his dog after the Cleveland shooting, calling the victims illegal immigrants, and now his reaction to the events in Allen, where he basically is saying mental health before any official has come out and publicly ascribed a motivation.
Yeah, well, first of all, politically, you have to understand that Greg Abbott is a desperate man. He doesn't get nearly as much attention as Ron DeSantis does. And a lot of this rhetoric, a lot of this dehumanizing, human beings that are here in Texas working hard, regardless of their immigration status, is a way for him to sort of try to catch up with DeSantis in the crazy department. Again, on the gun piece, him being completely tone deaf when it comes to that is absolutely no surprise. We used to have very, reasonable gun laws here in Texas. If people wanted to, have a concealed carry license, for instance, they have to go and take a course to make sure they were proficient in shooting. They've gotten rid of that. You used to have to you used to not be able to walk into the state capitol without a gun. Now they've taken the metal detectors down at the state capitol. You can just, walk right in into the state capitol now. So, things here are going backwards as it relates to gun safety. And I can tell you, this whole talk about gun grabbing needs to stop. I'm a gun owner. I'm never going to give up my guns. Most Democrats that I know are never going to give up their guns. But we expect for reasonable steps to be taken when this much blood continues to be spilled. Why can't we pass the background check bill? Why can't we pass an extended background check bill? Why can't we make sure that boys or men that are not even old enough to rent a car can't buy an AR? Why not do that? No one's going to lose anything that way. They're perfectly reasonable steps. And any Texan, even a lot of Republicans that you talk to, will tell you that they believe in those things. But it just shows you how off the deep end the Republican primary has become in states like Texas.
Yeah, you can have a beer as an 18. You cannot have a beer as an 18-year-old, but you can certainly buy an assault rifle and do what you want with it. What do you make of this metastasizing campaign of fear mongering from conservatives? First, it was everyone buy a gun, then everyone carry a gun at all times. And now, as we heard there from that Fox personality saying, carry a gun at all times and constantly think about how you can kill everyone you meet.
I'm out visiting colleges right now with my 17-year-old, and we're actually in Houston right now. And we were in the Galleria here in Houston. I had to tell my son, hey, if something happens, you need to think about what you would do. And that's just such an unusual thing that someone should have to say to their kid. And let me just tell you, someone that has a concealed handgun license, I'll never forget when my instructor told the group of us that she was teaching, you have to think about any time you pull that trigger. When you're slinging bullets, you don't know where they're going. And let me tell you, no one within reasonable mind wants to ever have to make the decision to use their firearm inside of a mall or a grocery store or a school or any place like that, because that's not what everyday citizens are trained to do. That's what law enforcement and military personnel are trained to do. No one in their right mind, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, wants to have to make that decision. And so to hear Republicans say things like that, it's just absolutely insane. And it just shows how these radical, reckless Republicans in state like Texas, how far removed they are from the average everyday Texan.